As you know, I hope, my name is Linda Appiah and I'm a barrister practicing in England and Wales and in Ghana. I'm here with you this evening on Omega Live TV, coming to you to do the legal hour, to give you some legal advice on a very, 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 very important subject, which a lot of people know of, but not a lot of people do anything about. Sometimes, unfortunately, at the point where it is too late. But before I tell you what it's about and why we're here, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. First, to World Remit. You can see them online. Check the online, they have an app, or you can download them either through the usual apps, or you can go to their website, okay? And then also to Cox-Mex Cocktails for all your cocktail needs. 07738285316 is their number. Okay, now, as you know, with the legal hour, I give a lot of information on a lot of different subjects. We've gone through a whole plethora of different areas of law. So today I'm going to continue ploughing through, because it seems the law is never ending and never stagnant, always changes. So today's topic, after all the few weeks we've had before, is on wills. Okay, have you written a will? What is a will? What do you need it for? What happens if you don't have a will? So all these are big questions that are going to be answered this evening. If any of you have a question that you want to ask, you can always phone me, check and see if there's anything that in particular you want us to answer. And I'm saying us because I have a guest who will I introduce in a moment. But the number you call is 07543 989 940. We're coming live from Omega Live TV. Check us out on Facebook, on YouTube. You can connect with us, like our page, so that we can bring you more information as the weeks go by and continue with the program, okay? Because I know we're helping a lot of people understand a lot of things. So my number again is 07543 989 940. So you can call me, or you can text me, or you can link up with me on Facebook with my name Linda Appiah, or with Omega Live TV, and post your questions there, and we'll try and answer them as the hour goes on. Or on another occasion, if you're not sure and you don't want to ask your questions directly, call me and I can talk to you about your matters later on. So, what are we doing here today? I told you, we're doing wills. And my guest this evening is a solicitor of some standing. And this evening, gentleman, Mr. Daniel Coy of Fortwell Solicitors. Daniel has a long career in immigration, in wills and probate, family, and general common law areas. So, of course, this evening, as I said, we're doing wills. Daniel is the expert, so he'll be able to answer your questions, all right? So I'll say, of course, now, hello, Daniel.
Hello, Linda.
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
Good. Daniel, I know from your practice that this is a hot potato. Yeah,
it is.
And I think there's some things that both you and I are surprised about that people don't know about wills, but we're here to help.
Of course.
We're here to provide the answers to the questions and give people more information as much as we can about the issue of wills, okay? Yeah. So, easy question, I think, but one that's needed. Daniel, what is a will?
It's a very important question, as you may say, even though you tend to portray it as easy, but it may not be as easy as you think. But when we say will, it's a document that try to put together the thoughts and wishes of an individual. When the person passes away, what that person wants to happen. So the thoughts and wishes of an individual being put on a document for the person and the family members to be able to apply when the person is no more, or when the person passes on to the other world. So basically that's what a will is. Some people might think that a will should be a legal document, has to be written in a language, or not really. You'll be surprised to know that some people will just write it on a sheet of paper, and once you have complied with all the terms of a legal document or of a will, it will suffice. It will pass as a legal document. You have certain elements that we expect to see in a will. For instance, once you've put it together, it needs to be witnessed by 2 people. So if you have done that, you have put together your wishes, then that's it. It passes as a will in the UK. So for UK, we do not really have strict guidelines here and there that you need to meet. Once you've done the basic of it, and it meets the little threshold that I've stated, it will pass as a will.
Okay, well that's good to know, Daniel. I just want to ask a little bit more about that, if I may. When you say that they for the UK, they can write it down somewhere and then that passes for a will, okay?
Yeah.
But it has to have 2 people witness it, etc. So if I have to use myself as an example, not wishing anything negative.
Yeah.
But if I then took, I don't know, a piece of paper and I thought, well, hang on, I've got property, I've got money, I want to leave this to particular people. If I write that down, what then do I need to do apart from me just writing it?
Well, you writing it and then you getting it witnessed.
Okay.
That is very key, because if you don't get it witnessed, then it is not valid. If you get it witnessed by certain, for instance, I say that if I have prepared a will, I'm trying to leave everything in my will to you, Linda. And
yes, please.
and at the time of preparation, I can't find anyone to witness the document for me. So I call you, I say, Linda, please come and witness this document for me.
Yeah.
That will invalidate the document.
Okay.
Because I'm leaving everything to you.
Okay.
And there are certain things as well that even though we say you do not necessarily have to follow strict rules, you have to make sure that you comply with them. For instance, if you are making a will, we want to make sure that there's no undue influence. So if I'm writing a will and I'm trying to leave everything to somebody and the person is on my neck with a knife or with a gun, insisting that make sure you put XYZ in this will, that may invalidate that document. So there are a number of situations and circumstances that such a document may be challenged. So we need to be aware of that, that if you want to make a will, make sure you follow certain processes. The common law will tell you that you don't really have to do a lot for it to be valid, but we also expect certain basic requirements to be met for a will to be a valid document. Else you may think you have prepared a will, but nothing has really been done. And when you have passed away and you cannot really make any changes, then it becomes an issue. It brings about disputes and family issues. So it's very, very, very important that even though it may be basic, certain elements have to be met before it becomes a valid will.
Thank you. I'm sure that will help a lot of people as a starting point, because even the idea of what a will is and who do I go to, what do I say in it, and all of that, if it's more relaxed in that way, although you say there's got to be certain requirements that have to be met, as long as it's relaxed, then it's sufficient enough for the person to be able to make a will and then feel happy that their family members or friends or Battersea Dogs Home or wherever they want to leave their money to is secure. Okay, cool. So the next question is, there are a lot of us out here, why should everyone consider making a will? Should they? Should everyone consider it?
It's very, 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 very necessary that every person living here in the UK at least consider making a will. The reason why it will be necessary to consider making a will is, as I said previously, it brings certainty. If you pass away and you are in the UK, probably you came here to work and to make a bit of a living. However, you don't want to be buried in the UK. You want to be buried back home in your hometown, in a little village back home in Ghana or Jamaica or wherever you come from. You don't want to be buried here. If you do not make that wishes known, which you can make known in the will, when something happens, they may consider to bury you here. I have had situations where people have called me in the middle of the night or in the weekend and said, look, my father passed away. My stepmom wants us to bury him here. But it was my father's wish that my father would be buried back home in Ghana. and my stepmother is not willing to do that because of the expense that is involved. What do we do? And I say, was there a will? No, there wasn't a will. So how do we know that was your dad's wish that he's buried back home in Ghana? There is no documents written. So how do we comply with that? And you also have to understand that whatever wishes that you make, it will come with a cost implication. If you say, during my funeral, I want to be buried in the most sophisticated coffin, and you have not made provisions for that, and you have not written it down, that might not happen. If you want to be cremated, you haven't written it down, that might not happen. If you want to leave some gifts of money, of property, or some items to certain people in your life, and you have not written it down, it may not happen. And you will be surprised to know that in our culture, in our community, there are a lot of people who, when they pass away, that is when you see children popping up from left, right, center.
Yes.
And you say, oh, this gentleman here had 2 children. We all know about 2 children.
Yes.
Then somebody will show up from somewhere and say, I'm also a child. I'll give you a typical example. In Ghana, we have Kwame Nkrumah's children. You have somebody, and there's a dispute going on social media and all that. So wills make it, you have to be, it makes it clear that you want to leave XYZ for Amwa, Ajua, Kwesi, Ajua, and that's it. We are clear on it. There's no dispute about that. So even when people come to you and they say, oh, Daniel, I want to make a will, I want to leave XYZ, all my assets to my children, and can you put that down? And I say, children, what do you mean by children?
Exactly.
Can you name the children?
Yes.
I don't want a situation where you are no longer alive and I'll be told that we have to exhume you to do a DNA test.
Yeah.
You don't want situations like that. It might sound morbid, but these are things which are happening in our community that we need to be aware of. That importance of making a will, bringing the certainty alive. Because if you are certain, maybe you've had an issue with a family member, you don't want any of your assets given to that person. That will be able to stipulate that I don't want any of my assets to be given to Ajwa or Mensa or wherever. And then you make it there. Sometimes we will say, look, this person is your child. He's looked after you. Maybe at a later stage in your life, you've had issues with that person, so you do not want to leave an item with.
Exactly.
The best thing for you to do is, instead of leaving nothing to that person, put maybe £1, £10 to that person. When you do that, it will help you to avoid any disputes that might come up. So you realize that there are ways and means that will can solve all these problems, because maybe you didn't leave anything to that person, but because of that the person has brought a dispute which you don't want, so you have avoided that situation. Then we have situations where maybe you had your children before remarrying, or after years and all that, so you have a step children in the family. You want to make sure everybody is catered for, and then there's no dispute, because in those scenarios we tend to see a lot of disputes happening. Will solve that problem, you see. So the certainty aspect is what I have mentioned. Then the second point that people need to understand is that you can use will as a basis of saving what we call inheritance tax.
Yes.
And protecting the family wealth. A lot of outside our community, a lot of other family and community, they use this a lot to make sure that they keep assets and family wealth within the family,
rather than to the state.
Because what people don't know is that when you have lived and you have worked, you're paying income tax. When you are buying items on the street, you're paying VAT. When you are purchasing your property, you pay stamp duty tax. When you are selling your property at a profit, you are paying capital gains tax. You are paying corporation tax if you have a business. So there is taxes all over. And then when you pass away, you also have to pay inheritance tax to pass on your hard-earned income to your children. So preparing a will, if you make what we call a trust, and there's a rule, you have to survive 7 years after you've prepared that trust for it to be valid. So you can prepare a trust. If you don't survive 7 years, it will not be valid. So it is very, 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 very important that you prepare these things at an early stage in your life. You don't wait when you're on your sick bed, before you call a solicitor, before you call somebody that, look, I need to prepare well, because at that stage you may not be able to protect your family wealth. So it's very, very, very important. And sometimes people think, well, I don't have anything. I don't have any assets. I don't have any wealth. Why do I have to prepare this well? But they forget that they have a pension.
Yes.
And many people have pensions.
I had a message today. Somebody's asked me and said, yeah, but I don't have anything, so what should I do?
Yes, you have a pension.
Yes.
You may not have anything, but you may have a life insurance, which may be valued at about 200,000, 300,000 pounds. You may have a property. The property may have come with a life insurance. So you realize that in as much as you may sit down and say, oh, I mean, how much do I have? I don't have anything. Exactly. Why do I need to have a will? You will realize that you will have assets even when you pass away that you are not even aware of. So it's important that you have that will done so that you can protect your family against 40% inheritance tax.
Exactly.
It's no joke. No, it's not 10%.
Especially if
it's not 20%. It's 40% of anything that you have above £325,000. So you realize that it's a lot. And if you have a property in London, how many properties are worth less than £300,000 in London, especially outside UK, outside London? Maybe you may have a few here and there, but you have to understand that. And if you are domiciled in the UK, and you are doing your probate, you have to understand that all your assets, so your assets may be a property back home in Ghana, that may be brought into your assets, unless you don't declare it. If you don't declare it, then you are not. Well,
then there's other issues.
Other issues that may have may come up. So people need to understand that, you know what, you may not be rich, you may not have money now, but if you pass away today, all the monies or all the issues. I've had people who are bus drivers for years, and they pass away, and then a huge pension sum pops up.
Suddenly comes from nowhere. Yes. And
they think, oh, I didn't have anything, you know, but this is a huge pension. Somebody may have worked for the NHS. All of a sudden, some money comes up. During this COVID crisis, what did the government do? They decided that if you are working for the NHS and you pass away, they are going to give you a lump sum, which was huge. So somebody who was in debt and who had no money, all of a sudden have money that they need to think about probate. That needs to be done in the proper way. So you realize that the importance of making will cannot be overstated. There are so many things that can come up. So if you are married and you are divorced, you are married in our community, somebody may marry, the wife would have run away, he doesn't know where the wife is. He says, okay, I've got my crata, so I've got my papers, so if the person is running, he doesn't like me anymore, why should I chase the person? If you pass away, that person will be called and say, because you died intestate, your assets go to your spouse.
Absolutely.
Maybe because you've separated for 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, and you thought, oh, that is the end of the story. Your children will be penniless. They will not get a pound. Everything will go to your spouse that you've been separated for the past 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, that you had no idea where she was living or where he was living. So that is how important these things are. If you get married, you are divorcing, you are separated, I've seen cases where spouses are quarreling, they are fighting over things, they want to get divorced, they have a property, and we have something we call joint tenancy. And you are supposed to sever it, and it's not been done. They've just come to you, and then the next day you get a call, the person has passed away. Everything goes to the spouse. These are some of the, because there's no will. So we tend not to think that it's not important because we don't have access, it's not important, but little things like this, and it causes a lot of disputes. So people who are listening to us, the audience, our listeners, please, if you haven't done it, you should be thinking of making a will. Very important.
I think you've also touched upon another point, actually, Daniel, about changing wills. Because, of course, you, at the start of a marriage, you might be responsible, say, I'm going to leave everything to my wife, my children, you may name everybody. and then suddenly, as time goes by, things change, your situation changes.
Yeah.
Sometimes even people that you've left assets to in a will then pass away themselves. So I think people not only need to think about the here and now, but also when you do make a will, remember you've made it, and then think about what you're going to do in the future. If,
very
if in
important.
fact the circumstances change, like you said, if you separate from your spouse, or even worse, if there are things that happen to some of your children, so now there's an issue as to who gets what. And you know what the Ghanaian community like is this, especially, we have big families. There's always an uncle here, an auntie here, other people who expect something because they're part of your family. But that's our culture, and we don't run away from that. But then being in this country, I think those of us who are here have to understand the big difference between the attitudes here and the attitudes and expectations in Ghana, or as we say, back home. And so if you're making a will, create certainty, as you've said, but also the second thing is that if there are a change of circumstances, you need to make sure that those change of circumstances are reflected absolutely in your will. Because otherwise you leave the people that you want to leave your things to penniless.
Exactly. And as you said, sometimes people make wills and they think it's done and dusted. It's been put under the bed, it's been given to a solicitor to store it for them, and they forget about it. However, they forget that if you have another child, if you so many things may happen, and you have to incorporate that. You may buy another property, you may sell a property, you need to. So will, as you may have rightly pointed out, is a living document that needs to be updated from time to time, that needs to be looked at from time to time. And if your circumstances changes, very, very important that you call whoever did it for you, or you call somebody to look at it again for you.
Because it's not difficult.
No, it's not.
That's the funny thing. It's probably one of the easiest things to resolve in terms of creating a will.
Look,
and it's also the easiest thing to do if you want to change your will. It's relatively straightforward as long as you say the checks and balances are in place. But then it's surprising how we don't do it. Maybe we think it's too easy, we don't need to worry about it. I don't know.
You see, we have cultural situations whereby people in the African Caribbean community tend to say, well, if you're talking about, well, are you trying to kill me? Are you saying
wishing your death?
Yeah, wishing your death, or you will. If you talk about will, or you make a will, and a family member sees it, it will cause a dispute here and there. So there are certain reasons why people tend to procrastinate. And they think, well, I'm not going to die tomorrow. I'm not going to die wherever. So why should I make a will? So many people have a lot of reasons why they do not make it. But I tell people that, look, it's a conversation that needs to be had, and you will rather do it now than to see your family members fighting each other when you pass away. So please, even though we have cultural sensitivities on these issues, it's important to do it. And it's, as you said, it's very easy. We at Fortwell Solicitors, for instance, every November we have something we call Will Aid.
There you go.
We prepare will, and then at a discounted rate for people, and all we expect you to do is to make a donation to our chosen charity. So last year, for instance, we managed to raise about £1,200 for our charity, and we prepared will, and you will be, it's sad to know, but about 95% of the people who approach us to prepare the will don't come from our community.
Oh, wow.
You understand? About over 95% of it, and we are there doing these wills for other people who see the value of these documents at a discounted rate. We have to tell our people they need to do it. Sometimes we think we may have assets abroad, so we don't need to make a will. When you have assets abroad, there's a way of dealing with it. We tell people that you may prepare a UK will for your UK assets, then prepare a Ghana will for your Ghana assets. If you want to do so, it can be done. You may prepare one will and incorporate both Ghana and UK assets if you don't want trouble. there may be advantages and disadvantages when you make 2 wills. When you make 2 wills, what that means is that the Ghana will is able to take care of your Ghana assets as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Whereby if you make 1 will which covers both your UK your UK assets and Ghana assets, what have to happen is you have to deal with the UK probate. Get your probate, send it to the Ghana courts, let them recognize it before that process starts, which can make things longer.
Yeah.
So it may be advisable to make 2 wills. It may also be advantageous because certain aspects of a UK will may not be recognized in Ghana. For instance, when you prepare your trust and you put your assets in a trust to protect your family wealth, it may not be recognized back home. So you need to start considering that. So we always say that it's not a cut and dry situation. Everybody's situation may be different. The best thing for you to do is to speak to a professional who will be able to advise you that based on what your personal circumstances, probably go to Ghana and get a solicitor or a lawyer in Ghana to prepare the will for you rather than making a will here because you don't have much here. But if you have something little here, something little back home, probably make 2 wills or the Ghana assets is not a lot, just make 1 will in the UK to incorporate everything. So advice is very, very, very important in these situations.
And also I think on that point, people need to be careful of overlap, which is why it's advisable to get legal advice on something that's so fundamentally important, because you've worked hard for the assets that you have. You've probably invested a lot of money, spent a lot of time getting all these things. So if you don't secure them for your people, the government's going to take a big chunk of it.
Of course.
If you want to donate to the government, great. I'm sure the government would be more than happy to take 40% of your assets. But if you want to keep as much of that as part of your family inheritance, then the best thing is to make a will. Whether it be 1, whether it be 2 wills, separate wills, depending on the items or the assets, etc. Then, of course, I think you're right about that advice with clients. And often we see a lot of clients who don't take that advice, who don't listen, will always tell you, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Because they must know something that we don't know about their timeline. I don't know. That's the only comment I can make.
You're right. I mean, as I said earlier on, many people are more confident that, look, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to do this. Sometimes too, it's about the cost. They think it's expensive. They don't know that you can do it even with using solicitors. It's not that expensive at all. Sometimes I say, why do we even do these wills? Because the amount of time that we spend to prepare it and advise the clients and all that is not worth how much we are charging. But we do these things because we expect to help the community sometimes. And that's why we even do this charity will aid for people and all that. So the true cost, I remember having a conversation with somebody sometime last year when we were doing the will aid, and he said, I had never knew that there was so much involved in preparing these documents, and this is the first time I've done it, because in the past he had gone to W.A. Smith and got a stationary will and prepared it, himself. But when he came in, and I asked you, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? What if you and your partner pass away in the same time? Who looks after your children? Have you thought about appointing a guardian to your children? What if you and the guardian pass away the same time? So there are so many scenarios that when you come to us and we are talking about, we are able to incorporate and make you see how important it is. So talking about the importance, even when you have a child, you may have one brother or sister that you think those children are very close to. So you will prefer that those children are looked after by that person.
Of course.
If you don't make that wish clear in your will and something, God forbid, it happens to you or to your partner or wherever, those children may be given to somebody who the children may not be happy with, or that you yourself may not. Or if
you were alive, you wouldn't be happy.
You would not be happy with. And they'll say, if my brother or my sister was alive, he would have preferred that I look after that child.
Another point of contention. And
then that becomes another contention. Then it becomes a court dispute or family dispute. People will be fighting each other over your child. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of these documents. Please, if you are listening to me today and you haven't done it, take a phone, call somebody and let the person prepare one for you.
You've touched on this already slightly, Daniel, but it's really to do with the significant assets that are abroad. and whether you still need a will in relation to those assets.
Yes.
Again, complicated it possibly could be, because then you're talking about whether joint ownership, whether you own it 50-50 with somebody, all of those things. But again, it's about protecting what is yours. Most people are so desperate to protect what's theirs when they're alive.
Yeah.
I don't know why they suddenly decide that when they're dead, then it doesn't matter. It can go to whoever in the family can have fun arguing over it.
Yeah. You see, I have seen contentious probate matters whereby families have come to me or to us and said, "Oh, my father remarried and all the assets, the stepmother is fighting." And these things are so common. Linda, you will not believe it. It's very, very, very common. Sometimes I say that we do a lot of immigration social media programs. We do other areas of law on social media, but we don't tend to talk about these things because we know our community members, when you start talking about it, they start switching off. They don't want to hear you and all that. So we tend not to say much about this, but it's important that we bring it forward for people to start discussing these matters, because it's happening in our society. It's happening in our community. Look, when you have assets abroad and you have assets in the UK, or you don't have anything in the UK, and you are not making the necessary provision for those items, it can bring disputes. Sometimes you may not have a property in the UK, but you've built a nice mansion, a nice house, a nice something, portable something somewhere in a corner, somewhere in Accra or Kumasi or wherever.
Yeah.
Important you make your wishes known, what you want those items or those assets to be done with, because you may have children in the UK who may not be interested in moving to those properties back home.
Yes.
But your brothers and sisters back home may want those items, those assets. Sometimes those uncles and sisters and all that are already living in that property, because you don't live there. You go to Ghana or your home country in Jamaica once a week, in a year or 2 years. You just go there for 2 weeks and then you come, and your family members are living there.
Yeah, which you don't mind at that time.
You don't mind at that time, but as soon as you pass away, they believe that they have an entitlement.
Yes, because they've been living there for
They've
so
been
many
living
years,
there so many, so they expect that you will have made provision of that property. Maybe, oh, I'm in this room, in this place. I like this room. I'm keeping this. I'm not giving it away.
Yeah.
Your children here, you may not have left anything for them. You understand? You may not have left anything for them. So you are saying that, well, can I come for this? I want the family home back home to be sold so that we can use it to finish our university here or something. And then it becomes a dispute. Please, it's expensive. It is frustrating. It's stressing. It's draining for family members when they have to go through these fights.
Absolutely.
And these fights go on for years, months, unending. So family members, our friends who are listening, please take the advice we are giving out.
So let's say I'm listening to you and I just think, I'm not interested. Everything God will provide. Yeah, the usual thing that a lot of us believe in. And I don't make a will, and then I pass away. What happens to my 10 mansions then? One,
if you pass away, it will be distributed using the interstate law. And if you are married, automatically everything goes to your wife. So don't assume that your wife should be giving the properties and assets to your children.
Precisely.
Maybe as soon as you pass away, the next day she's remarrying.
Thank you.
You know?
It happens.
It happens.
Yes, it does.
Maybe you pass away today, the next day. I have seen people who have passed away and their partner, the next day they are calling the lawyer. Did he leave a will with you? Well, where's the... And questions are being asked immediately. You will expect that the person will wait and mourn for a bit. But these things, this is the reality on the ground. So if you pass away and you haven't made provisions on how things should be distributed, don't assume those items or those properties will go to your children. It may go to your spouse. Your spouse may remarry the next day. It's possible.
Yeah.
Don't assume that when your spouse will pass away before you, So you will get the items. Sometimes we make a mistake that, it's always the man who passed away or is the woman who... We have these notions in our communities, but it may not be so. So it's important that we think about those things. And especially when there are stepchildren, they've been marriages and remarriages and all that, and there are other children, and sometimes too, we forget maybe your parents may be alive. Don't assume that certain things will be given, or your spouse will
supposed to be nice enough to think, oh yes, I respect my elders, I'm going to give them some of my assets from that my husband got, because the operative word to me is mine, my husband. So, and then it becomes discretionary. She might decide, okay, we've got 10 houses, you can have half of one, and then I'm keeping the rest.
You might say no.
There's nothing you can do about it.
You might say, I'm not giving your parents a pound.
Yes.
You can't do anything about it.
No. I mean, you take them to court and all of that, but do you really, especially if you're elderly people, really want to go through all of this, trying to contest things and trying to say this or that?
Even when contesting the will, don't assume the court will take it for you.
Yes.
Because with the interstate law, it's clear. Yes. Everything goes to your spouse.
Full stop. Unless you're going to suddenly turn around and say, I have actually, Daniel, it reminds me, I have actually had a case, and this was a criminal case actually, where a gentleman passed away. It's a few years ago, and I've just come to my head. He passed away a few years ago, and he didn't have a will. So everything went to his wife. His wife was a foreign national. He was an English gentleman. His wife was foreign national. And his children, who were not with his wife, because he married her later in life, then suddenly turned around and said, no, everything, this is our dad. He and our mother, who'd passed away some time ago, built these things up together. Get out of the house. Tried to get the wife at the house. She got an injunction, so managed to stop all of that happening. But then, and I was defense counsel, I was defending her, and you're thinking, criminal, why is there a criminal case involved in wills? Because big bombshell suddenly came up was that we suddenly were told that his daughter, the man who died, his daughter, had alleged that her stepmother was in fact still married to her first husband when she married this young lady's father. So
there's a bit of
massive issue. Because then it's not just a case about the will. We're now talking about criminal offences, bigamy.
Bigamy,
and things like that. These things about the certainty and trying to make things clear, because I'm not sure that his intention was that his wife have everything to the exclusion of his children, but we don't know. That's the point.
You can't tell. You don't know what they talk about when they go to the bedroom. And I have seen cases, especially in our community, even though it's sad to say, but it happens, that as soon as the person passes away, I was the legitimate wife, then people start bringing marriage certificates. And marriage certificates starts popping up. And you and I know that in our community where we normally have customary marriage, proxy marriage, you don't even have to be there for the marriage to take place. You may have bought a schnapp or akweteshi one time for your grandfather or your girlfriend's parents, and they will use that. That
say you're now married.
You're not married. so and according to PNDC law, that governs our customary marriage law, you don't necessarily have to register it to be valid. And that has been argued in the UK courts over and over and over, that our marriage do not need to be registered for it to be valid. So this person said, you know what, he bought a drink for my dad. I'm married. Then all of a sudden, a marriage certificate from Ghana pops up. And then another person brings another marriage certificate. Then you will be surprised that in how important that even in our culture, it's imperative that you get these things sorted, because a woman, girl's friend or woman or whatever, concubine or whatever you want to call, will show up one day with a certificate that you're married to her.
And if you're not careful and it's dated at the right time,
before the one that you married,
here
it causes a lot of issues.
Major. If it's after, then it's fine, because we don't believe in polygamy in the UK. That's fine.
And proving the authenticity of such documents has been always an issue.
Yeah. For any of us who've travelled to Ghana,
yes,
and been to Ghana, lived in Ghana, and needed documentation, etc., we know how, interesting it is. We're trying to get a simple document.
Yes, it can be proving the authenticity of such documents is an issue, and those documents they can easily send it to the Ghana High Commission. They will get a letter and add it to, and these are causing problems for people. So if you are a lady, you have assets, you want to protect it, you want it to go to your children, make sure you protect it.
Absolutely.
If you're a gentleman, you have children, you want it to go to them, make sure you're doing that. If you are marrying, you are remarrying, whatever reason that you are marrying, make sure that you are making these things to protect your family.
It is awkward though, because I'm just thinking to myself of family members that I have who I suspect, because am I going to ask them? I don't know. Who I suspect, this person probably doesn't have a will, that person doesn't. And that's the other part of it, isn't it? It's the sensitivity of wanting to say to the person, do you have a will? Because the person will think, not about you wanting to kill me, it's that you want my assets. And I think actually with our community, I'm thinking that one of the reasons why I think people find it difficult to make a will is because it means declaring, perhaps where they haven't before, on a piece of paper what they have. And some people like to be a little bit more discreet about their assets.
You will be surprised to know that when making a will, you don't necessarily have to state all your possessions.
Exactly. Good.
So somebody can make a will and say, look, I want everything to be given to Adwoa, Mensah, Abena, Kwesi, and that's it. But you will not state any assets in there.
Yes.
So when you pass away and a search is conducted, a probate search is conducted, and we are able to realize all your assets, we put it together, we liquidate it, we distribute it equally among the people. Yes. So nobody will know which assets are there in your if you want to hide it.
Yes.
No.
It's only the beneficiaries.
Yes, at the time of death.
Yes, who will then get to find out what those assets are.
Yes.
The only thing about what you've said is that the only bit that we would like to be certain is rather than saying Abena, Kwesi and Adwoa, which are 1 in 7 of the population of Ghana has that one name, you know what I mean?
Yes,
You'd want the full name.
Of course.
There's certainty as to who you're talking about.
Yes.
Because that may also be another bone of contention. If you say Kwabena and there are 2 Kwabenas in your family, it
becomes an issue.
Which one are you talking about?
Yes, that's why you have to be doing the will in a proper way. If you go to W.A. Smith and get a stationary will, and you come home and you decide that, okay, I'm going to give Abena, Adwoa, Kwesi without making the specific, putting the full name, putting the address, and things like that, then it becomes difficult to identify such people on the occasion that you are no longer around. So it becomes problematic. So you when making these things, it's important you factor all these things in there. You may have a particular shirt, a watch, chain, certain things that you want to go to a particular person. Then you may state it in there. I want my gold chain to go to my last born Kwesi Menu. And then that's it. You want it there. So you might say that particular thing. So that also brings a bit of certainty there. I would like to give a Bible to my stepdaughter. Maybe you don't want to give anything to the person, but you don't want the person to come back to dispute the will. So we advise you that, okay, give something to the person. So maybe the person has been very difficult to you, or it's okay, I want to give a person a Bible, I want to give a person a Quran, something, depending on whatever you do in your culture or your religion. There are ways to tweak these things around, but it's very, very important you do something.
So in terms of, you talked about the 40% if there is no will. So we're talking about the inheritance tax. So in what ways will making a will actually affect or reduce or increase, you give me the answer, the inheritance tax obligations that you have?
Well, let's put it this way. Maybe you, Linda, you come to me as an example, and you've got a property in London, probably in the posh town of London, Chelsea.
That's good. Okay.
It's worth £500,000. Okay, and then you don't have any other assets, or maybe you have a few pension here and there, and maybe a few savings. Okay, you want to make a will. We know that the assets in Chelsea, or your asset in wherever it is worth more than the minimum threshold of £325,000.
Yes.
So straight away you fall into the bracket whereby you have to pay inheritance tax. So the advice to you is that your biggest assets, which is the property or your life insurance, it can be anything, but your biggest asset that you have, let's remove it from your estate and put it in a trust for whoever you want to give it to. So if you plan to give that property to your children, that property can be put in a trust. And then if you are able to survive that document for 7 years, then it becomes a valid document. So it's existing. So if something happens, that property will not be included in your estate. That property will be excluded. So we take that property and give it to whoever you want to give it to.
Yes.
Before we start talking about let's liquidate everything.
Yes.
The advantage of that is that if you can get those assets to the people you want to get it to as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Before you even start talking about the probate. So you will realize that the total estate that you have is less than the minimum required threshold.
Yes.
So you don't have to pay any tax on that. So you fall
Now
within.
that's the trick, isn't it?
That's the
the
trick.
way around it.
That
It's
is-
perfectly legitimate because you would have left it, no doubt, to those people or persons anyway. It's just a way to ensure that they get as much of that asset as possible. Rather than taking out a big chunk and giving it to government. Because I think there's a lot of resentment. I frankly, I'm not convinced as to why we're having to pay 40% of what we have, given all the other taxes that we pay, over to the government, just merely by the fact that you want to pass on some sort of property or asset to a family member or a friend.
I totally agree. I will not be happy having to pay 40% after paying income tax, stamp duty, whatever, to buy a property, capital gains tax, VAT every day I buy an item in the shop, all the taxes you can think about. After paying all of them, now being told that for me to give any access to my children or to my family, I need to pay those as that much tax on it. And 40% can be very, very huge. If you'll be surprised to know that most assets or most properties in London now are above £300,000. You see, you may have bought your council property at a discounted rate, but when you pass away, that asset will be valued at the market rate. It will not be valued at the rate that you bought that property. So you need to be aware of that. So for tax purposes, this is something that people do. The rich do it. The elites in society, they're doing it. They've done it over years and years.
That's how they retain their wealth.
That's how they retain the wealth in their
Absolutely.
society.
Yes.
You may not have a property. You may listen to me and saying, these lawyers are talking about property. I don't have that. But you may have a life insurance.
Yes.
Your life insurance may not be an insurance that you bought for yourself. It may be something, a product that even comes with your bank account. That will mean that when you pass away, it's going to generate that income. And based on that life insurance, when they add it to your 2x4 savings that you have, you mean that you fall into the threshold. You have to pay inheritance tax. And what that means is that maybe if we don't have enough assets to pay that inheritance tax, we may be forced to sell your property to pay
Precisely
that inheritance tax.
Yes.
So when you think about it that way, you realize how important making the right decisions whilst you're alive can help. And the sad thing is, you have to survive 7 years. So if you decide today that, okay, I don't have a lot of, I don't think I'll fall into the bracket, I don't need it, I'll be okay. And then 10 years down the line, or when you're on your sick bed and you say, I want to now make a will, and you call the solicitor, you want to make a will, I ask you, what do you have? What do you have? And then I look at it and I say, this would have probably been good if we put it in a trust for you. It may be too late. So if you don't make the will in good time, the time that you prepare it, it may be too late and you will not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, so viewers, you've heard the advice that Daniel has given you. I think it's very important. You've got to look at making a will. You've got to look at how to secure your assets. Why do you work for all these things? Why do you invest your money? Blood, sweat and tears usually goes into all these assets. So why do you not secure them in a way that ensures that your family can then enjoy the fruits of your labour, rather than, sadly, once you've gone, sitting there now having to struggle and being almost either in the position that they were before, which was never your intention, which is why you made the will in the first place, or rather than being in the place that they were before, being in a worse off position, as Daniel said, selling the property because there is an inheritance tax bill that's 40%, and if it's a £500,000 house, that's what, 200,000 pounds. So suddenly an asset that could have been made a difference to their lives suddenly becomes almost like a burden, and they're left with significantly less than they originally would have had, and then be in a position where they're then having to look at other means just to survive and to support themselves after you've gone, which I know for many of you would never be your intention towards your family. So let's just continue, Daniel. With a couple more, I think, questions on this. And one of the questions that I know people thinking, okay, so W.H. Smith's all well and good. I've got, the will. They've got them in pro forma form out there. I can get one of those. And then you've also got the will writing service. Yeah. So if you're doing a balancing act or versus or either or, what would you advise as the way that people should be going?
You've asked an interesting question, but I'm a solicitor, so I'll be biased towards being a solicitor. So it becomes very difficult for me to, but let me be as objective as possible. When you make a will, or when you look at your circumstances, W.A. Smith or DIY will may work for somebody. It may not work for you. The reason why it may work for somebody and may not work for you is probably that person have nothing. He doesn't really have a lot. The only assets that he's got is his television in his room, and probably a bit of change in his bank account, current account, and all that. So for such a person, maybe the only wish that he wants is to be buried back home. So getting a W.A. Smith document and writing it himself may work well for him. Somebody might say, okay, I have a number of assets. Maybe I have one property, I don't have any children. So maybe I'll go to a will writing service online, pay £20, £30. They might prepare the will for me. So it might work for that person. Okay. However, somebody may have children, A, B, C, D, maybe 4 children with a current wife, and have one hidden child somewhere that nobody knows about. And then maybe have one property hiding somewhere in Kumasi, one in UK, and when it becomes those complicated, then you definitely need somebody to advise you on certain things. Somebody will say, well, I need to appoint a guardian because I have a young child who is below the age of 18. So if something happens, I want such a person to be able to look after my child for me. So having a guardian incorporated in the will is very, very important. You may not be able to do that yourself, going to W.A. Smith and grabbing it from the shelf and trying to write it back home. You may not even know who an executioner is, who the testator is. You don't know all those
all these types of titles
titles that you have. So you need somebody who will be able to explain that for you. So for me, I will suggest that it's you don't have one rule which will fit everyone. Just look at your personal circumstance and decide for yourself what is best for you.
I think that the reason why also it may be important is because if you do the DIY versus the will writing service, there's then the question of what do you do with the document once you've got it.
Very, very important.
Yeah, because of course you've got the will, you've written it, you've got your 2 witnesses who signed it for you. I don't know, they may go off somewhere, they may not be around anymore, and you go and stick this under your pillow or under your mattress somewhere or amongst all your other paperwork at home. So then there's a question of your relatives then coming, assuming maybe, if you haven't told someone or anybody that you've got a will, assuming that there isn't one. So this is why we've talked about the will writing service versus DIY as well. There's also that issue, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a storage issue. Very, very, very important because, for instance, you may have maybe a big family. You have decided you want to give more items to the first 2 children, and less because maybe the person did something to you that you are not happy about and all that. You've prepared a will, you've hidden it under your bed. He goes to see the will, he rips it into pieces.
There's that as well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, so daddy is not giving me anything, or mommy is not giving me anything. Let me rip it into pieces. It may be a crime, but that's a different story. So you realize that DIY will have its own issues. Sometimes people may come to a solicitor to prepare a will, but they'll say, I want to store it myself because I don't want to incur the extra cost of you storing it for me. So that is also something that you need to consider. But it's very, very important that if you prepare a will, you have to let at least 1 or 2 people know where the will is hidden. Not necessarily giving the will to them to have a look, but where you have hidden the will. So I will suggest that, and if you don't see a solicitor, the person might not do all this, or you might not know that you need to do this, because if we prepare a will for you and you want us to store it for you, we will prepare a letter that go and give it to the executors, so that they know that a will is with Fortwell Solicitors. Or we will tell you that go and give it to the executor and tell the person where you've hidden the will. So we leave a blank that you write it there. So the person knows that if today or tomorrow something happens and they go in your loft, something is hidden there for you. Or something is, and some people can hide certain things. You look and look and look and you never find it. Or you may even go there and the mice have chewed it up. And it's not, and then they don't even know where to find a draft copy or a copy of that will. So you need to consider all these things when making decisions on what service to use to make your will.
We've got a question, a text message here from, I think it's Angela, she says her name is. And she's asking that, she says that she's from Ghana, but there are some issues in relation to immigration. And she's wondering, what should she do if she doesn't have the right paperwork here? Does that affect, I think if I paraphrase it, does that affect her ability to then make a will?
Very good point. You know, many people assume that your immigration status is related to your ability to make will or not to make a will. Trust me, it's not. You are not going to be questioned for making a will because of your immigration status. I will rather recommend that whether you have the right legal status in the UK or not, you should still prepare a will. And that question also brings a lot of other issues that I would like to mention if time permits. For instance, you can have people who is working, whether the name that is using is a different name and all that, and when something happens, it can affect them in a way. So making a will in these scenarios is also very, very, very key. I don't know how to explain it for people to understand, but we know that that happens in the community as well. So trust me, it doesn't matter what your immigration status is. Please, you can make a will, and a lawyer or a will writer will not ask you, bring your immigration status before I prepare a will for you.
And I think it's quite important, isn't it? I know with people who are here, perhaps not with the correct paperwork, they worry about what would happen to them if I go and see a lawyer and all of that. But as you say, we're not worried about that aspect. We're concerned about what you wish to do with your assets. And sometimes you might have quite significant, they may not be here, you might have significant assets here or not here. But as long as they are yours, then they're things that can be secured for your family members, whether they be here or else. Or even, as I said as well, I've said family, I've said friends, I've said you may want to give your money to charity. Different people give money to different organisations or people, individuals. So that's entirely up to them. Daniel, can I ask you perhaps, just as a final point, is there one solid sort of, or one piece of advice? I know it's make a will, but is there one sort of piece of advice you would want to give to people? Because this really is a concerning subject, certainly for me, especially with my line of work and with yours, because we know that as you're sitting sometimes talking to that client, you know that that may come up as an issue, this whole thing about having a will, but you don't want to look like you're peddling your trade and trying to, oh no, let me do this for you, let me do that, whatever.
Yeah.
You really want the client to come to you and talk to you about their problems rather than you almost forcing it on them.
Yeah.
So is there one piece of advice that you think you would want to give people about wills and what they need to think about?
Okay. As a community, in the UK, I would say people need to start talking about these things more. You will have to discuss this with your family members. You will need to decide for yourself. You know deep down within yourself your assets that you have. You know deep down within yourself the children that you have that are not known to the world or are known to the world. You know your girlfriend and your wife and wherever that you know the world know and the world does not know. You know your personal circumstance more than anyone else.
Exactly.
And the least thing an individual can do, or I will not wish it on anyone, don't put your family through a contentious probate matter. I do it, I'm a solicitor. If you bring the matter to us, I will do it for you.
Yes.
But it is sad to see families fighting each other. Children rising against the other child, siblings fighting against siblings. People demanding, I don't think you are the real father of the real child of my dad, let's go and do a DNA. When the person you're supposed to be resting in peace, they'll be thinking about how to pull a swap from you to do a DNA test so that we can, clarify or settle a dispute. So my advice to community members, people from our community, please, we know it's a sensitive matter. We know you don't want to talk about it, but begin to discuss these things. If you are not too sure, just take a phone. We do free consultation. We do this. We do the wills for people. It is not expensive. We do will aid every November, and we do it. You just give something little to a charity, and we prepare the will for you.
Yeah, there's 2 months to go. So
2 months to go. So please, there are options. If you think you don't want to pay, just go to WS Smith and do that. We've told you all the disadvantage, right? At least do something.
Yes.
If you want to be buried back home, make sure you put it in writing.
Yes.
If you want to be buried here, that's fine. Let's put it in writing.
Yes.
Don't leave these things to chance, please.
Exactly.
And sometimes, one thing I forgot to add, sometimes you want to do organ donation or you don't want to.
Yes.
Put it in writing.
Yes.
Sometimes you may be in a difficult situation where you cannot make decisions for yourself. Your wife will say, he would have donated his heart out. And you didn't want to. You want to speak, but you can't talk.
Yes.
So please, whatever happens, these are documents that allows us to do that. So my advice, the long and short of it is, please speak to someone about your situation.
Well, Daniel, can I thank you very, very much for this evening's chat, the legal hour. I think we've given our clients, potential past, those who are watching just for information purposes, a lot to think about, and hopefully they will pay attention to what's being said and start really thinking about it, because you've given a lot of thought-provoking ideas to people. I just want to give a shout out to Appiah, Nick, Selom and Barbara who are all watching. Thank you very much for liking what we're talking about. Please like the page. Please give me some feedback. Let me know. I've always said it every week. If there's any topic that you want to talk about more, Daniel and I could, I suspect, talk for another hour if we wanted to about all the anecdotal stories we have about clients and the positives and negatives of the will writing service, etc. So please do make sure that you contact me and speak to me about any of those matters. Just as a last, I've just been handed some one or two comments. I've got from Geraldine: the majority of Ghanaians have no interest in will writing services. Most of the thing that anyone who does it is bringing death on themselves. I think that again, Daniel, brings us back to the point we made earlier about the sort of superstition that we have in our societies, or many societies. And thank you very much, Geraldine, because that's a really helpful comment. And I see you waving there. I wave back at you. Abdullahi as well. Thank you very much for watching. Yao Kankam as well. Yao, thank you very much for watching. And then Geraldine also says most Ghanaians think, and I think we've got a call in, but let me put it on silent for now. Most Ghanaians think that if you make a will, you're inviting death. Again, another point that we made earlier on, didn't we, Daniel, about this issue. I know we've got a call coming in. Let me just see who that is before I finish off, because it may be that there's something the person wants to say that is important. Hello, caller. What do you want to ask? I don't know if we can hear you. Just excuse me, audience, while I just plug this person in and just see what it is that they want to ask. I don't think we can plug in, but let me just see. Hello, caller. What's your question?
Right. Just one more. I just want to know about if I make the will, can I exempt like legitimate children out of my will? Because we're here. My children, I've got 2 children with one that we've separated about 6 years now.
Right. Okay.
We're here. We have a lot of problems with children. I don't get to see children.
Sorry, caller. I'm just trying to connect you because I think it's not working very well. Try again. I think what I got from what you're saying, and I'll give you a call back after we're finished, is that you want to exclude, I think he was trying to suggest, certain people from gaining, I presume, his estate or things like that. And I would have thought, Daniel, from what you were saying, that that's done by writing the will.
That's done by writing the will. If you want to exclude somebody in the will, there are a number of ways that you can go ahead and do it. And based on your personal circumstances, we may be able to advise you on the options. One may be that you specifically state that I exclude X, Y, Z for my from getting anything.
You may say expressly for the avoidance of doubt.
I don't want to give that, but that may raise disputes. Because he's got a genuine expectation. Maybe it's your child, maybe it's your spouse. So he then later on go to court and challenge the validity of the will. So that's what
you were talking about, undue influence and things like that. It may start saying somebody forced him to put that in there. Why would my dad put that in his will? He loved me more than anybody else, and all of those issues start.
So there are ways of going around it. So you might say, okay, I give a Bible to this person,
so some sort of token or something.
£10. I want to give £10 to this person. I want to give. So when you bring it to court, the judge will say, well, he didn't forget about you. He gave you £10. He gave you £20. So we have ways and means of going about it. You know. So I will say to the caller that yes, you can exclude somebody from your will, but if you don't make the will, automatically everything will go to whoever you were like setting, or you wanted to, you were adamant that you want to exclude from your will. Everything will go to that person.
I think you're right, and thank you, caller. Sorry I couldn't talk to you, or we couldn't hear you properly. What I might do is I might give you a call back after the program, so hopefully you're still listening, and then I'll be able to give you some more information. I'll be more specific, because I think we're guessing sort of what we think you were trying to get at. But if you want something a bit more specific and some more guidance on it, then either myself or Daniel can answer your query. So I will call you after the program once we're done. Because again, even though I said we're finishing, as I said, I think we could do another hour on it, because this topic is just one that everybody has something. Everybody, even if it's threepence in a bank account somewhere, or a very, very minimal amount of money somewhere, there would still be the issue of once you've passed, the few family members, a lot of family members, whoever you have, will want to, think, well, I'm sure you would have wanted me to have that, rather than it go into the government coffers, or to go to X or go to Y, people who you don't know or people you didn't like particularly, or as you said, I think quite earlier on, spouses who are estranged from each other, so they're no longer together, and suddenly the wife that you've hated for the last 10 years suddenly gets everything that you've ever worked hard for, when she sat down and did nothing, in your view. Yeah, exactly. So it, like I said, Daniel, it is a topic that a lot of people do talk about. And then there's also some other people who are sending us waves, and I wave back to Angel, to Uzo, to Sheriff as well. And I think we had mentioned earlier the 2 comments that were made by Geraldine, again, which was stuff that we've kept saying, because if we're talking about specific communities, then specific communities have specific problems that are unique to them and superstitions that are unique to them.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about, for example, the British culture or the English culture, there will be specific issues that are unique to the British culture,
Yeah.
such as actually making the will in the first place, which I suspect is common to everybody.
Yeah.
And then also the surprise about who certain items are being left to. A best friend who no one's heard of for the past 10 years, or someone who you thought was an enemy. So usually I think with the British culture, it's who you actually leave your assets to. And then certainly with the community that you and I are from, which we're more familiar with, is the Ghanaian community. So how Ghanaians think, as Geraldine has said, that, well, as soon as you talk about wills, it means you're wishing me dead. You want my life. But if you don't do it, you leave your family, as your very last point was, you leave your family in uncertainty. I don't know how many times we're going to repeat it. I suspect we'll end up doing another program on it again in a few months' time, and we'll still be saying the same thing. But it's only because we want people to break away from those superstitions and break through those barriers that they have in their mind, because it helps your family. If you want to help those that you love, create certainty for them. I think it's as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And if you want to maintain or you want to protect the wealth in your family, this is also another route to go about it. So the advantages is they're just too much that we can never finish this program if we want to go ahead. But people should just listen to the advice. Making a will does not mean you are calling for your own death. No. Making a will does not mean somebody will kill you. No. Making a will does not mean anything bad will happen to you. So please, please, ladies and gentlemen who joined in this program or people who have listened to us, speak to your friends, speak to your family. Let's make this a conversation in our community. Let this be a topic that we can discuss about, and let's talk about it and let's try and help, because we are in the profession. We see the fights that go on. We see it, and it's disheartening. As I said, you don't want to be seeing that, and just take the advice that we have given.
Yeah, thank you very, very, very much, Daniel. I think we will end it there. Viewers, thank you very much for watching. I've given shout outs to those who are watching. Pa Kojo as well, a shout out to you as well. Thank you for watching. There's so many of you now who are coming online, so you can watch this back at your own leisure. Quinnell Lewis, thank you as well for watching. I think I'd already mentioned Barbara. Thank you as well for watching the programme this evening. And Nick Samuel, thank you as well for watching. I don't think they want us to end. I don't think they want us to leave. I think they want us to go on and on. And let me see if this is just going to work, and try and see if there is this last call that we can take. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hello, yeah, I think we can hear you. Hello, your name, please?
I'm Patrick.
Hello, Patrick. Hi, Patrick. You're welcome to the program. Do you have a question for us, please?
Yes, I've got a question for Lawyer Dan.
Okay.
Can I have two wills at the same time?
I think you said, do you have two wills at the same time?
Can you make two wills at the same time? You can make two wills at the same time if one of the wills is for a foreign property. So probably if you are the dual national and you are resident in UK and you have assets in the UK and you have assets also in your other country, then you can make a will to govern the assets in that country, and you can make a will to govern the assets in the UK. But within the UK, you cannot make two wills at the same time. So the will that you make will have to be clear that it's only governing your UK assets and does not incorporate any assets abroad. So that is the only circumstance that somebody can have two wills. However, if you make a will in the UK and you remake another will, that's the second will invalidates the first will.
Yes, I was going to say, so the second one in time, so you make one on the 1st of January 2020, and you then make another one on the 1st of February 2020.
Yes.
So the one made in February is the one that stands.
That stands. So normally when we make a will, we will state categorically that this invalidates any other will that has been done previously. So your only time that somebody can make two wills is when the other one is for abroad. There may be a situation where you may have a family, so a man and a woman, and then they will make what we call mirrored will.
Yes.
So the man will make his will, the woman will mirror the same will. So maybe he will change a few things, such as who will be the executor and who will witness a few things in there.
Sure.
But you can make a mirror will, but not necessarily one person having two wills for UK. No, that cannot happen.
I think again the mirror will is another topic again. Daniel, we're going to have to bring you back, because I can see that this is a 2-hour, 3-hour thing, because there are just so many issues that can arise, and people need to have some certainty as to how they plan their future. Because as I keep saying, if you've bothered to get these assets, why not protect them? You wouldn't want them to be taken away from you during your lifetime. And I would have thought, I know you're not here anymore, but I would have thought you'd want the people that you want to have them to have those assets. Otherwise, what was the point of gathering them in the first place? Yeah, so I think we'll try and end it there. I think this is the third time we're trying to end this evening, but that's because I think people are so interested in this topic. So thank you so much, viewers, this evening for watching and for paying attention. And I'm hoping that by making all the calls, giving us all the shout outs that you have, it's because you actually are interested in this topic and you will follow through and do something for yourself. And you've heard of Daniel. Daniel's explained. He's from Fortwell Solicitors. More than happy. November's coming up, so mark your diary. Discounted rates, charity stuff going on there, so you can have your will writing service done with Fortwell Solicitors, and they're able then to put your wishes in the relevant documents, give you all the legal advice that you need. You can call me as well. You've got my number. Again, 07543 989 940. Thank you again to my guest, Daniel Coy of Fortwell Solicitors. I want to give a shout out, of course, to our sponsors who I mentioned at the beginning, and that is World Remit for all your needs in terms of sending money abroad, and also to Cox Met Cocktails, and their number I'll give one more time is 077 3828 5316. I'll be back again in the next 2 weeks, again with another guest. I'm sure it's going to be as equally as interesting as it's been this evening with Daniel Coy. And on the next occasion, we'll be talking about probate. So you may have heard Daniel mentioning the word probate during our discussion this evening. So it's following on from when you write a will, what then happens next? So you've gone, your will's there. What happens then? How does that all figure itself out, okay? So please do join me again in 2 weeks' time, same place. And I have been your host for this evening. It's been lovely to see you all again, and thank you so much for your comments. My name is Linda Appiah, barrister at Vine Court Chambers.